Be sure to download the entire podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and please like and subscribe for more videos. Welcome to Making Muppetland, the podcast. And I have with me Brent, who we worked hand in hand together. Brent did all of the design and construction on Muppetland. And another good friend of mine, Nick, is here joining me on this podcast. And what a lot of people don't know is I was running an arcade before COVID, and we had developed a lot of things that never actually came to fruition because we were supposed to build a location that was supposed to open last summer. This entire story begins with failure. I mean, the idea of having a business that gets knocked out by COVID-19, as a lot of people have experienced, and then sort of out of the ashes of it, a viral video. And I think we started working on making Muppetland. We started working on making a ride before we even knew what ride we were making, back in August?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it even before then. Originally, we really didn't plan on doing it full depth at scale. We had other plans for what we were going to be doing with your business. And yeah, COVID basically set us on a completely different direction.
For everything we did in Muppetland, we're using servo motors. But growing up, I used to watch Nick tinker with RC cars in his basement. And he was using the same type of technology back then. This is before I ever knew how to even work on arcade games. Summers, I would go to a camp called French Woods Festival, where I met you, Brent, where you were doing production design for their theater. French Woods is a very notable theatrical camp. You know, you were, Brent, 20 some odd years old, and I was like a teenager. I was like 13.
Yeah, I think you were 12 when I first met you. Doing anything in the form of arts, there's always something you can learn. There's always stuff that I still learn, and I'm always still asking questions. You never stop learning.
We grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia. There was a movie called Mannequin. Mannequin was filmed in the Wanamaker's in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
But there was this light curtain. So my parents would take me down to the Christmas light show. So I always wanted to capture the Wanamaker's light show. And so by the time I got to owning an arcade, and I knew what you were up to with lighting, Nick, and then I would say, well, cool, we can control lights, but what if we could control motors? Brent and I are starting to design this new arcade that never happens, that never opens. Talk about some of the stuff you've worked on, because when people look at what we're doing, and we're on a budget, but the reason it looks so good is because you have this incredible Jedi skill set that allows you just to take like paint and tape. It's like MacGyver. And then the next thing you know, we have a dark ride.
I was lucky at the summer camp. There was a lot of pressure on getting a lot of shows done. And as every year I went back, they added more and more theater productions. So you had to find ways to become faster and still produce a quality of work that looked good. I did do a production design, a music video for the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 for a music video called Guardians Inferno, directed by David Yaveski. And that was a lot of fun. It was a very 70s flair and theme to it. So everything that I do in production design and set design, there's always something different, always something fun, and always something as a new challenge. And the idea is to take every project as a new challenge. So when it came to the actual ride, I've never done a ride before, a ride process. Although I could create the visuals of what it would look like, there's still an element of learning and self-teaching to a certain degree. I knew nothing about 3D printing until basically when COVID came around, more or less. That's when I really started to self-teach. I had the time to self-teach myself how to 3D print things.
The entire exercise of building Muppetland was an exercise in not knowing. It was a pure educational experience. We went into it knowing we were in over our heads. And that started with you and me tinkering irrespective of a ride, Brent. We were trying to just learn stuff like, oh, let's do like a whiteboard castle and do some projection mapping and use After Effects versus some off-the-shelf projection software. So there's all this tinkering. And then I would talk to Nick separately and be like, hey, how do you do this? We built this ride, which is sort of based on Muppetland, which was a marketing concept that Disneyland never did under the Eisner years. They were actually going to, when they bought the Muppets, they were going to do a Disneyland takeover. We had already acquired some of this hardware, and it would have done DMX lighting control. And I was learning how to do some basic servo control because Brent, we were going to do some stuff like conveyor belt monorail thing with like robots hanging. Again, not robots moving yet, but we were getting close. So by the time COVID hits, we've got a warehouse, the ashes of a business sitting basically like people go, oh yeah, I just have 10 TVs lying around. Well, we did because they were supposed to go into this mall location for a different use. I just remember saying to you at some point that we could build a ride and calling or texting Nick and being like, if I get this 12-volt motor, what do I do? You know, you started designing 3D parts for like a mini train, for like a monorail train thing that was going to be a conveyor system. If anyone's been to the Droid Factory at Disney, at Disneyland or Disney World, we wanted to have like hanging parts going around like a track above you.
Basically, like we were trying to build what you see in a dry cleaner, where you see your suits go flying by in the background, and eventually they get that. But that was clearly out of the budget. So what do you do when it's out of budget? Make your own.
It's just the idea that if you don't know how to do it, it doesn't stop you. And that goes back to what you were saying, Brent, about learning and never stop learning. Nobody ever said, let's not do it because we might not be able to pull it off.
The internet these days also is an amazing source of, we don't understand it, you learn it, you don't always find exactly what you're looking for what you want to do, but it sets you on a path to do what you want to do, because your imagination is part of the joyride of that.
I've always wanted to build a ride. Did I ever think I'd do it? I don't think so. I don't think I ever actually truly thought I'd do it. I think what's so exciting about having done it is the learning experience, truly, because now imagine what the next ride's going to be.